And now we welcome on PFF's lead draft analyst, Mike Renner. Now, Pro Football Focus has launched a really special project with the projected #1 overall pick, Aiden Hutchinson, titled Hutch. It's anywhere you listen to podcasts and on PFF's YouTube channel, so be sure to check out Hutch. It's a story that dives into Aiden's childhood, early years at Michigan, and his incredible 2021 season. Mike, I want to ask you about that maybe a little bit later here, but first of all, thanks for coming on.
Oh, appreciate you guys having me on. Sadly, no more first round pick to talk about, though, so we'll have to dive deep here.
Well, you know what, Mike? There's always plenty to talk about in Cleveland, Ohio, when it comes to the Browns, as you know very well. You guys, in your most recent mock draft, I believe you guys have Nick Benito going for the Browns at number 44. So let us know what your thinking is there. Is that how you still feel? And why is that a good choice?
Well, they need someone opposite Myles Garrett, and some pass rusher. Now, rookie pass rushers are very hit and miss, especially once you get to the second round. That's not where you're immediately going to find it. But this pass rusher class is so deep that I think the pick you're getting at 44, or the guy you'd be getting, Nick Benito in this case, is someone that in other years, if there aren't as many edge talents as there are in this year's class, would go higher. And to me, Benito's the best pure speed rusher in this class. And so I think you can do a lot with him in your third down packages, just from a pure speed perspective. I mean, he ran the 4.5s. He had one of the fastest 10 splits in this class. He is elite in terms of his get off and pushing upfield. And that'll play on stunts. That'll play on different games you want to run early out the gate. And we'll give, more if you're facing a less athletic tackle, you can still win a lot as a rookie. So that's kind of my thinking there, is maybe he's not an every down player, but just adding some juice to those third down packages is probably one of the things, if you're objectively looking at this roster, probably still one of the weaker parts of them.
So we obviously have you mentioned the receiver position. We have some that we want to ask you about. One of the guys I wanted to bring up was someone I was doing a little research on, kind of this week. George Pickens is really interesting as a guy coming off an ACL. I know he played those last few games with Georgia. Former 5-star. This front office has liked SEC guys who were former 5-stars in the past. Kind of has some of those #1 receiver traits. I'm curious what you think of him and maybe as a possibility at 44.
I'm a big fan. I truthfully don't think he ends up to 44. I think he goes higher than that. So if they want to go get him, and I think they're going to be in competition for a lot of teams because he has incredible ball skills. He's dropped 2 passes his entire collegiate career, and he blocks probably better than any wide receiver in the draft class. As much as, blocking is not why you draft wide receivers. For a lot of schemes, Brown scheme, what the Chiefs do, what the Packers do, who are 2 wide receiver needy teams at the end of the first round, that matters. They're going to covet that. So, yeah, he didn't play really this last year. He can throw this tape out the window. He was not healthy coming back from the ACL. The few games he did play at the end of the season. We go back to sophomore tape and freshman tape, and no one 2 years ago was as good as him as a freshman in 2019. 2020, guys were catching up to him, but he was still pretty damn good. If you just project out one more year of development, if he was healthy, we could have been talking about top 10 pick who's now sliding. So I'm a big fan of his, but like I said, I don't think he ends up making it that far.
Well, in keeping with the wide receiver theme here for a little bit, we know for sure that the Browns had in 2 guys for top 30 visits, 2 bigger name receivers, not obviously ones they could have gotten it at 13, but in Treylon Burks and Christian Watson. So my question is about those 2 guys. Do you think they'll be around at number 44? Will you have to climb up to go get either one of those guys? And how would they fit with the Browns?
I think there's a chance they could. Both those guys, the evaluations are going to be all over the map for different reasons. For Burks, it's because he is this big physical monster. I think he had the biggest wingspan, even though he's 6'2", he had the biggest wingspan of any wide receiver in this draft. And that's probably more important than pure height, is how far you can reach outside of your frame and still pick the ball. So he's got really good ball skills, really big wingspan, 225 pounds. He's just not a complete route runner. He just kind of has not shown that, is more of a after the catch guy than he is an actual get open type of wide receiver. So that's, like I said, there's going to be variable evaluations about a guy when that's his profile. Some people are going to love that after catch ability and say, let me just put him in my offense. Doesn't have to run a full route tree. Other people are going to be like, no, I need route runners. That's not my type. So there's a chance he could slide. Watson's an odd one because elite athlete, but just, I mean, probably the best testing numbers of any wide receiver in this draft. But coming from North Dakota State, he's kind of on the skinnier side for a tall wide receiver. There's not a great track record for tall and skinny wide receivers once they get to the NFL. And then he's on the opposite end of the spectrum in terms of ball skills. I think he had the highest drop rate of any wide receiver in this draft class. So some people are going to see that and just probably take him off their board altogether and just say, we don't want to risk that. So I do think there's a chance he falls to pick 44. I think he'll be on the board. If I had to bet, I bet he'd be on the board. Burks, probably not, but I could see him falling to 44.
So there's one other guy I want to ask you about, and I feel like he's sort of a late day 2 draft crush for a lot of people, and that's Josh Paschal. So again, if the Browns went receiver at 44 and he's sitting there at 78, it just feels like a lot of people really like him, even though he's not like in that top group of edge rushers. So what do you think of him?
I'm a big fan. I'd put him towards the top group, truthfully. Okay. I think he's the final draft. The draft board's getting finalized right now, but he's somewhere in the early 40s in the PFF draft board. So I see him as a top 50 player. And he kind of got screwed from like an evaluation purpose or like an evaluation angle by where he played last year. He was like a 3 technique. He was playing at nose tackle and pass rushing downs. Like they put him anywhere. And the fact that he even still graded out remotely well is insane because I mean, he's 6'2", 270. He's not a defensive tackle. He is a edge guy through and through. And so I think he could be one of the best edge setters in this class because of that build where it's like, when you're that built low to the earth, it's very reminiscent of like a Brandon Graham where just it's tough for offensive tackles, a 6'7" offensive tackle to get under a guy who's 5 inches shorter than them, but still has fairly long arms. So I think he's going to be a productive NFL player, maybe not a high-end pass rusher, but you know, if you're looking for a guy who can be just an every down right out the gate, I think he's probably one of the few in this draft class I'd trust to do that.
Okay, so I have to ask this because Browns fans will get angry at me if I don't. And I don't know how much work you do on this position, but Browns fans really want this team to draft a kicker. If you don't have a great answer for me, that's fine. But where should this team look for a kicker?
I have not even looked at the kickers yet. I will do that the week before the draft, and then I'll have my take on it, you know, day 3 when they come off the board. But I haven't even truthfully looked at it. We don't put kickers in the draft guide. We probably should, but it's just like there's only so much time in the day to work. We have not put any kickers in. Sorry.
I don't blame you. Like I said, Browns fans though would go crazy if we didn't at least ask about kickers in the draft. It's the obsession this year.